Hello, podcast listeners. You're about to take a deep dive into the happiest place on earth. If you're not a parent, you don't need strollers, and you've got expendable income. I'm talking about Disney World on this episode of JJ Meets World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
I have a furnace now.
A furnace?
My house heats again.
Oh, did you not have a furnace for a while?
So it was starting to happen like a little bit on or off last year, but it really started to happen a lot this past month, where you know how you set the heat level for your thermostat, and then if the heat dips below that level, the heater should automatically kick back on.
Yep.
So it wasn't doing that. It wasn't being triggered to kick back on. And for some reason, the only way I could get it to trigger would be if I pulled the batteries out of the controller and put them back in. And then for some reason, that would get it to go, oh, I need to start heating again. Well, even that stopped working, and there just was no longer any heat. So Laney's came out and took a look at it. The guy who looked at it, they revised how old they thought it was 3 different times. But the guy who comes out first goes, "Oh my God, this is the oldest furnace I've ever seen. This was made in 1958." And I'm like, "What? Okay." And then he goes to his truck and he comes back and goes, "Nope, never mind. It was made in 1966." And I'm like, "Jesus, still, that's old." And then the third group that came out to actually do the assessment of what kind of furnace it was going to be. Like the first guy who came out was just a repair guy.
Yep.
So next guy comes out and he goes, "No, it was made in 1986, but it's still really, really old. Still oldest one he had seen, still working in a house." And you know my house, it's teeny tiny, right? It's the tiniest house you've been in. And so they had to put in a new furnace, take the old one out, and the new furnace even kind of juts out into the hallway just a little bit, just because they don't make furnaces small enough anymore. So they had to like cut out a part of the wall. So
Oh my God.
yeah, so my house looks even jankier than it did before, but I have a heater again. It feels good. So like for 3 nights I was sleeping with an electric blanket. And the cats were all huddled up around me, because even though it's April and we're coming into the summer months and it's actually been nice out the last like 2 days, at night it was still getting down to like 50 degrees, 55 degrees. So I'd wake up shivering. But I got heat now.
Well, I'm so happy for you, and I bet it makes you sleep easier at night.
It does. Did they have working furnaces at Disneyland?
They did. Well, Disney World. Get it right, Tucker.
Oh,
Don't be such an idiot.
So you were you were in Disney Town for a couple of days.
I was in Orlando, Florida, and I went there initially for a conference for the Children's Miracle Network. And I took part in several days of meetings to help with the radiothon that we do every single year to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. They have a massive rebranding that's taking place this next year that includes a change to all of their sub logos, a change to their main logo, and even a change to their name, which is, in this area, you think of like the Children's Miracle Network is huge. Like people know that balloon.
That's a
logo.
big deal to do that big of a change.
It is, and so
for anyone,
it kind of felt like I was. It felt like I was at a like an Apple like speech a couple of times, just because it was like all right, we're gonna tell you the big thing. Are you guys ready for the big thing? And I think everyone was sort of holding their breath, waiting to see, like, oh, are we going to be able to take it? I don't know. We're going to have to find out. But after that was done, and I stayed at the Dolphin. Now, Tucker, I stayed at the Dolphin way back like in 1994 when I went here in 4th grade. And it was a fairly new hotel then. And by no means is there anything wrong with the Dolphin today. I mean,
And
it
is this a hotel that is inside of Disney Town?
so it is a partner hotel with all the Disney perks. Here's what goes on. So Disney owns a lot of their own hotels, right? So for example, a hotel that Disney owns would be the Disney's Yacht Club or the Art of Animation. Disney also has partner hotels that are technically on the Disney property. This one was run by Marriott, and there's 2 complimentary hotels right next to each other, the Dolphin and the Swan. And so it's an opportunity for
It's all animal themed.
Yeah, but like
Aquatic animal themed.
Aquatic animal, because it's on the man-made lagoon lake that they have there, so you can get to a couple of the different theme parks via the water taxi that they have. So I stay at the Dolphin to start with. It's glorious. It's a lot of fun. And then I switched to Disney's Yacht Club. Now, I booked Disney's Yacht Club not because I think that I love yachting, but because they had a special deal. Like it was, it's normally like $700 a night, but right now it was like $280 a night. So I picked Disney's Yacht Club, which happens to be 2 hotels over from where I'm staying already. So I walked there when I changed hotels. I just grabbed my stuff and carried it over the boardwalk, and boom, I was there. But that was an actual official Disney hotel. And as nice as the Dolphin was, and it really, like, I would say like it's in a top 10 of the hotels I've ever stayed in my entire life. The Disney hotel, apples and oranges different. Like the way that the staff works with you, the embellishments, everything is so purposely chosen inside a Disney property. The Yacht Club obviously was themed around yachting and boating, and it felt very lake life. Like when you go to the lakes area, there's certain things you just see everywhere, like in the lakes area. It had that kind of a vibe. I mean, everything from the elevator buttons looked like little portholes to the specially themed wallpaper. Heck, the turn down service every night was our towels were themed into different ships and Mickey Mouse figures that had were anchors and stuff like that. So there clearly was a lot of thought that went into making this. And the reason the Yacht Club was so cheap is they're redoing it right now. So there's a massive amount of construction taking place, but Disney hides construction, and they hide it really well.
Did they have all of the cleaning staff dress as the characters from Beauty and the Beast who live in the castle?
Oh God, wouldn't that be great? Also, I thought about this.
I would force them to do that. I wouldn't even raise their pay. I'd be like, guess what you're doing now?
So I had 2 thoughts about Beauty and the Beast while I was there. Number 1, was there in that era, okay, they would have used chamber pots, okay? And it would have been one of the servants' duties to take care of the chamber pots. So when the curse happened, did they turn into a chamber pot?
Yeah, was Beast taking big old beast dumps into one of his servants?
I mean, you got to think, right? Yeah. Like, geez, Mr. Beast. And then what does Belle do when she goes to use her nighttime chamber pot, and it blinks at her and smiles?
I would honestly, going forward, living in their castle that has now returned back to people, I would still be worried about maybe any of the other servants being left still in furniture form, and you just don't know.
Oh, just always they're like, I was outside
Yeah.
I was outside the 40 feet that turned everyone back.
If I was the plumber who got turned into the chamber pot, I think first thing would be like, hey, I want to raise a big one, like back pay.
Okay, so I also thought about this. I'm like, okay, so there were things that turned into pots and pans, right? And because there were things that turned into serving dishes and forks and all that kind of garbage. So at one point, LeFou grabs the maid who's a feather duster and is about to light her on fire. And she's like, no, 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 no. And so it made me think of this. Does that mean that the servants who are turned into pots and pans, like to cook that big Be Our Guest meal, were like, ah, ah, ah,
Yeah.
and they were, you know, they were being tortured more or less so that they could make the gray stuff. It's delicious. Okay, so this is what I thought I would do. Thought I would just kind of break down what I went there, because I I've been to this is my third time at Disney World in my life, and I am really amazed. I think that there's a big difference in Disney now, and I've kind of read that post pandemic, not everything went back to the way it was. I certainly saw it in the staff, and I read a Reddit forum that was talking about how this person works for Disney, and because they need people, they've changed the way that they train people, and it's not as vigorous as it used to be. And
Okay.
so, they're I think what would have like kind of called out some people no longer exists, and um other people have noticed. Okay, so I'm going to start with Disney's Hollywood Studios. So when you walk into Disney's Hollywood Studios, it's kind of themed after the Magic Kingdom, where you walk through this old Hollywood type look, and it's got shops, gift shops. It's got a recreation of the Brown Derby, and it's meant to look like you're walking through 1930s 1940s Hollywood. And so these are the attractions I went to. They have a remake of the Grauman's Chinese Theater there, and inside of that is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is a ride themed after the current version of the Mickey Mouse shorts. Which, by the way, if you're not watching the current Mickey Mouse shorts that have been going on for the last couple of years, they are out of this world. They are so funny and just next level. There's one called Potato Land, where Goofy's just always wanted to go to this theme park called
God.
Potato Land.
You showed me that one.
Oh,
And it was phenomenal. Are these just on Disney Plus?
they are on Disney Plus, and they made a series of shorts, like where they released like 15 shorts a year for a couple of years, and then they had like an actual television show. And I found out the guy who does the voice of Mickey Mouse now, his name is like Chris Diamantopoulos. It's something really Greek. And if you ever watch the show Silicon Valley, he plays Russ Hanneman, the billionaire who invests in them, who's the guy who put radio on the internet. He also was in the Three Stooges movie, and like I'm like, no way is he the voice of Mickey Mouse, and he does a great job. I watched one of the shorts on my flight home, and it made me laugh so hard that the guy sitting next to me was like, "Well, what are you watching?" And it's Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, and they're all on their way to their favorite swimming hole, like to kick off summer. And they sing this song called like swimming hole, gotta love your swimming hole. But then it's got one line and it's a montage of them walking there, and it goes, no matter what your troubles, financial, legal, or women. and I lost it. It's like, you'll forget them when you're swimming hole. Oh my God.
That is fantastic. And I remember too the style of the one that you showed me, the Potato Land one. It's Disney characters and Disney voices, but it's not the Disney style like that.
Right.
You would say is a classic Disney style. This definitely takes some hints from like Ren and Stimpy,
Yes,
and Adventure Time, and more I would say a more modern sensibility. I guess Ren and Stimpy is more the 90s, but like more Adult Swim ishness to it, yet it still feels like Disney. Like it still has that foot in the more innocent side of things, right? And I just remember thinking that the Potato Land one was a brilliant writing job.
In all honesty, they all are really, really, really smartly written. And I love the new look. So this Runaway Railway is done in that style, and it uses a ride track that is and I don't want to give away, I'm not going to give everything away in these rides, but one of the first things that you notice is like, so this is part of the Disney magic. So you're welcomed in the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and you're going to be watching a Disney short called The Perfect Picnic, and you're sitting there and you watch the beginning of this short, and you're standing in this big room, and there's a giant movie screen in front of you, and you're watching the short and watching the short, and at one point Goofy accidentally drives this train he has through the screen, and you hear this like and the lights like flicker on and off, and it's just in an instant that they flicker, and when they come back on, there's now a hole in the screen where you are watching the cartoon, and there's smoke billowing out, and it looks like something exploded out of it, so like it's all tattered and torn, but the screen is still lit up. And so they're like, uh-oh, you got to go help Goofy. And so you literally walk into the cartoon,
That's
and it is mind-blowing. And
fantastic.
it's a great example of how for the for the most part almost every Disney ride I went on had a queue that was part of the ride, right?
Oh,
So
that's really smart.
it really is. I mean,
That's fantastically smart.
they have story elements that are taking place during it. They've got interactive features, and so like, because some of these lines you might be standing in for 60 minutes or more.
Right.
And so it's just perfect and so smart and so brilliant the way that they do that. And so this is one of those situations where, you're walking into the Chinese theater, and you're getting you're getting ready for this big like movie premiere, and then you walk into the cartoon, and then there's another section of the line while you're waiting to get on Goofy's train. And the ride itself is something that Disney has really leaned into. They use the same thing for Rise of the Resistance and Remy's like the Ratatouille ride in Epcot. And what it is there's no track for this system. And what it is your cart that you're in is independently controlled by magnets underneath the floor.
Okay.
So they can move all of the carts independently, where it looks like you're going to slam into each other, and then you turn at the last second. You make space of all of it, and then they can also do things like turn you and face you in one direction while they like, prepare something on the other side.
Wow.
Tucker, it is friggin' amazing. I mean, it's the same equivalent as picking where your like where your camera angle is, so
Mhm.
that like you're using a little bit of like you're using a magic trick, right? You're using
Right.
something to control, but like the fact that there's no rail system, that you're in something that's moving independently, is nothing less than watching like a miracle. I mean, it's almost like you're in a Zamboni,
Wow.
but the computer is controlling every single like millimeter of where you're going. It was just wild. And so Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was a lot of fun. Next up, the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, celebrating its 35th year. I was just as into it as I was back then. The premise of this is it's a giant show. It's like a 2,000 seat auditorium, and you're watching the second unit. Uh, you're watching the second unit make parts of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they're doing the stunt sequences. So you're supposed to be seeing Indy's stunt double, and it starts off with the him going through like a temple, and so you're sitting there and like stuff, things are jutting out of the floor, and he's just barely avoiding them. There's fire, rocks crumbling, and then of course the big boulder chase, and then they go cut, 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 and they are resetting all this stuff, and they introduce you to the stunt coordinator, and it's a fun little show. And they show you how they do like slaps and punches and things like that, and then they set, and they're like, all right, to the bazaar, all right, now it's to the big plane sequence where Indy has to get the plane away from the thing before it explodes. It is so much fun, and for somebody who loves Indiana Jones, it's great. For anybody and they use the music from Indiana Jones so well. And I found this out during one of my times in line at a ride, in queue, as they say, that they went to like people like John Williams and said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna do this. Could you take the score you've already written and like adapt it?" And excuse me. And so many of these composers went back and redid things that they had done. and reconfigured it so it fit like what they need for these rides. It's just fantastic. And then I did Star Tours The Adventures Continue. Now, Star Tours was the first Star Wars ride way back, like when Return of the Jedi opened, I think is when they put the first Star Wars ride in Disneyland and Disney World. And one of the signature things is outside of it is supposed to be like a 1/3 scale. Uh, uh, is it the AT-AT that's the 4-legged one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you saying that like so Star Wars has actually had a presence at Disney World pre Disney owning Star Wars?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
George Lucas teamed up with them like so long ago to make this, and the idea behind it was, this is like an intergalactic vacation cruise that you take,
Okay.
but unfortunately, the at that point the Empire like gets a hold of your ship, and you had a first time inexperienced pilot in this little tiny droid that was voiced by Pee Wee Herman doing like come on guys, we gotta get out of here. And they had an animatronic like R2D2 and C3PO, as well as like a full scale X-wing while you're in the queue waiting to go. And it's things like Vacation Endor, like enjoy the outdoorsman's dream. And they had all this cool stuff. So unfortunately, Star Tours has taken a much bigger back seat now that the actual Star Wars Galaxy's Edge has opened. I mean, a mere quarter of a mile away inside this park. And so no one was waiting to get on this line. They have updated it. I think that the update came somewhere around the like Revenge of the Sith time. And so it's a different ride now than it used to be. They got rid of the Pee Wee Herman droid, and now C3PO is your de facto captain in this. And this is one of those motion theater rides where there's like a projected theater. It's funny because in the Imagineering story that's on Disney, you can go and find out that this ride was based off of technology that I think Boeing had created for flight simulators.
Oh, cool.
And so they said, listen, we need to be able to do this, but we need to be able to turn around a huge amount of people over and over. I remember waiting for probably like an hour and a half the first time I went to Disney, like when I was a kid, to get on this ride. And to be able to just walk in made me a little sad. I'm not going to lie. It is a little dated at this point. I'm not going to lie, but it's fine for what it is.
What do you mean by dated?
Like, so before you get in, there's a droid on a screen that tells you about like what you should, like please keep your children and lightsabers inside at all times.
Mhm.
And it's voiced by Allison Janney, and the CG on it is very early 2000s CG animated character. So it doesn't look great. And then even the visuals inside of while you're, like going through this thing. And just what's unfortunate is I went on Rise of the Resistance first. It was the first thing that I did when I was inside the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and nothing will be able to top that. Like nothing. And so this felt like going to Denny's and saying, "Oh, this moon's over my hammy. That's your signature dish." And they're like, "Sure is." And then you eat that, and they're like, "Would you like a piece of carpet to eat now?" It might keep you alive, but it's not going to be nearly as good as moon's over my hammy. But it was.
So Galaxy's Edge is moons over my hammy.
Yeah,
and,
Rise of the Resistance period is moons over my hammy. It is,
and the old space tour one is carpet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd still eat it.
You'd eat carpet?
Yeah. If I was like, okay, yeah, because I'm usually going to Denny's after I've had a little to drink. I saw a guy once throw up and then dip his moons over my hammy into the throw up.
No.
Yeah.
Stop it.
So okay. The whole reason that I went to Disney is for one thing and one thing only, which was to go to Muppet Vision 3D, the last project that Jim Henson ever worked on, and Disney World has decided to close it down. And I think June 7th is the last day for this ride. And I wanted to ride it one last time. Just wanted to see it one last time. So this is like Indiana Jones, but it's inside of a theater. It's a theater experience. And what you do is, so the queue line for this is probably the best queue line you're ever going to have, where you walk into this big open room and there are old like actual televisions all over the place, and they have the Muppet characters kind of walking around and talking to you about the things that they're doing. And so Sam the Eagle is telling you about how he's working on this new giant presentation called A Salute to the Countries of the World, but mostly America. At one point, they're like, all right, he's gonna be here. It's Mickey Mouse, but it's Rizzo coming out, and they're like, you're not a mouse, you're a rat. And he's like, yeah, but who would let a mouse run a theme park? And it's clever. It's all the original Muppet voices too. So it's Frank Oz doing Piggy and Fozzie. It's Jim Henson doing Kermit. It's the last thing that Jim Henson did before he died. And the premise is that you're being welcomed into the Muppet Labs, and they are now experimenting with 3D to bring something new, but in true Muppet fashion. Beaker and Bunsen accidentally turn the machine up too much, and they create this 3D character named Waldo. And again, this is 1991. In 1991, this thing looked amazing. Vibrant colors, 3D. They used a way where someone was puppeteering Waldo using this motion capture like glove. And so it has that look and that feel, but it is incredibly dated. I mean, this is 1991 visual effects, and it is unfortunate because it does look old. But meanwhile, inside, there's an animatronic Statler and Waldorf in the theater that you're in, heckling the show. And then the Muppets look up at it and they comment directly to it. It's just so clever, and there's so much. The Swedish Chef is running the projector the same way that he's running the projector in the Muppet movie. And so as they're trying to get this big 3D extravaganza off the ground, everything keeps happening. And Bean Bunny, do you know which character is Bean Bunny?
Not off the top of my head. I've heard the name, but I'm trying. That's not the lady who sings with the band, is it?
No. That's Janice.
Janice. Okay.
So Bean Bunny, probably the thing people most know him for is in A Muppet Christmas Carol. He's homeless and he sings like "Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen," and Scrooge throws a giant wreath at him. And then later on, he's the one who "You there, boy? What day is it? Why, today's Christmas Day." And Bean is, what's funny is there's all this background about how they tried to make a character that was so cute it was annoying. Okay. And so that's the premise of Bean Bunny, is he's so cute, he's annoying, and Bean is trying so hard to help in this situation, and everything he does is going wrong. So he runs away and he gets into the theater, and then there's an animatronic of him. There's someone in a Sweetums costume who comes into the theater looking for Bean Bunny, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so it's not 3D, it's 4D, because there's stuff that happens in front of you, there's water that splashes on you, and you're inside this, you feel like you're inside the Muppet Theater, and it is just a phenomenal experience. It's a great ride, and it's sad to me that it's closing. There's also a pizza place right next to it, because that's the thing, is in each of these areas, so Hollywood Boulevard is where Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is, and the recreation of the Brown Derby. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is obviously Star Wars stuff. Toy Story Land, Animation Courtyard. So this is in an area called Grand Avenue that's being torn down to make way for a Monsters Incorporated land.
Okay.
But there's a Muppet themed dining experience called Pizza Rizzo, and it's a pizza place that Rizzo the Rat has started, and there was no thought put into this. I mean, they brand it with some Rizzo stuff on the outside, but for the most part, it has nothing to do with the Muppets. There's nothing fun about it. It just is, they might as well have just called it like the pizza place that we decided to put here. And that was a disappointment, because I had seen drawings that were done when Jim Henson died, he was being brought on to the Walt Disney Company as their chief Imagineer. God, and he was going to be the head of creative. I know, right?
There's
imagine giving him those tools.
There's no one else who's right for that. It just feels like, even now.
I agree. Like I think for a while John Lasseter thought he was supposed to be that person who could just
Oh,
oversee everything and like have this creative edge. But I think the difference is like Jim Henson was also a great businessman as well. So he understands like, okay, there needs to be this, this, and this so that we can fuel this next opportunity.
quick side
Uh,
tangent that is still related to this.
oh yeah, go
I
for it.
saw I saw recently a like a short, must have been part of the behind the scenes documentaries for a Goofy movie. And it was the filmmakers talking about how, I don't know what studio exec it was. It was one whose name is familiar, but I'm not placing it right now. Wanted to do a Goofy movie, but with Steve Martin playing the voice of Goofy and just doing his Steve Martin regular voice, like not doing it as Goofy. And
Oh
they had
boy.
like to prove to him that that was a bad idea. They did a recording of the movie with the Goofy voice actor, but doing just his own normal voice, not doing the Goofy voice, just to show this guy, hey, listen, it doesn't work unless it's the actual Goofy voice. And luckily, he was like, yep, you're right. Stick with what you were already doing. But it still kind of pisses me off that they had to go through that whole process just to fucking prove to a goddamn suit. Like, that's a bad idea. That's a bad creative decision. Like that how else do you navigate that? But so that kind of stuff is what makes me go like, oh, we need the Jim Hensons, right? We need the big time powerful names who are also phenomenal creatives and storytellers instead of just fucking suits.
Okay, put a pin in that because I actually have a major point to bring up that involves that almost that exact same thing. So just
Okay.
don't let me forget before we end. I want to go back to that thought. Okay, so Toy Story Land, this is I mean themed around kids. So when you walk into Toy Story Land, you are supposed to be the size of a green army man. So everything around you is huge. Right? So they've got game pieces from famous board games that are massive. They've got Tinker Toys. They've got, like Woody is giant. Also, you can tell it's not Tom Hanks doing the voice. Like, he farms that out to his brothers. Have you ever heard about that? There's
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
Chet,
because
like Chet
they're
Hanks.
similar enough sounding.
Yeah, and so I did the Toy Story Mania ride, which is a lot of fun. It's supposed to be a midway style like game where you are riding around and like shooting stuff on this 3D screen. So you've got like a little thing in front of you that a little like zapper, and it was fun. It was this is where the downside is, right? So this is a more modern era Disney ride that I don't feel like they took a lot of time to really get the line right. It was long, poorly air conditioned. The
Mhm.
walls were starting to like enough strollers had gone by and like scuffed up the walls that like you kind of felt like you were in something that like
Mhm.
was it's due to be repainted completely and like rethought out. And for something that people sit in for so long and stand in, it like the wall the ceilings were low enough that like and you've got so many kids and families, it was so loud. It was like a din that entire time. And so that was like one of the more miserable lines I was in. But Toy Story Mania was a lot of fun. You walk through the Toy Story area, like I said, that one is like definitely made for kids, but it's fun to just walk around that land. There's the animation courtyard, which has got a Star Wars launch bay where you can meet a bunch of Star Wars characters. Um, I did not do in the Sunset Boulevard area the rock and roller coaster that stars Aerosmith. I've done that one before, and I didn't feel the need to do it again. But the propulsion system in that, so you're supposed to be in a limousine with Aerosmith, like rocking while you're. That's the premise of this roller coaster, but the
Uh,
propulsion system with it like to get you started is magnetic. And I guess when the Imagineers came up with this, like NASA came to them and they're like, hey, can we buy this technology from you because we actually think we could use this to like help rockets take off. And so there's a little piece of that, and then there's the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. I listen. I was a really brave boy on this trip, Tucker. I went on thrill rides that I normally would not, and in fact, allow me to remember that last time I sent you some photos of me when I was on a thrill ride, and I believe it was when Katie O'Keefe Hale was on, and you got to see what it looked like when I was on scary rides.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you a couple pictures of what it looks like when I'm on a scary ride nowadays. And I was so brave. I was such a brave boy, and I'm so proud of myself for it because I don't regularly do this type of thing, but I did a good job. I was very very smart, very I put my stomach into my heart, and I was like, I'm not gonna let this happen. So you can see some of those images of what I look like on some of these thrill rides, and I
Right.
actually enjoy some of them, but other ones I did not.
So they're still watermarked. So did you have to like
I sc-
take a photo with your phone or something, or were these like previews that get
oh,
sent to your phone?
dude, so Disney World now uses a thing called the Magic Band, and
Okay.
so everything is saved on it. It's like an Apple Watch,
the,
and so
the Splash Mountain's great.
yeah. The Magic Band knows when you're on a ride, and it automatically pushes this photo to you in an app. So
Okay.
I screenshotted these rather than buying the $70 all day photo pass. So they're not perfect, but like gone are the days of where you stand outside and you like look at the screens and wait for the one that, your family pops up on, and then buy like a printed photo.
How much would it
So
cost to have actually bought it without the watermark?
you can't buy individual photos. You have to buy like a date. So you can buy what's called like a vacation pass, which is $200, 3 days, all the photos, and they have people taking professional photos everywhere. And all you
Oh,
have to do
okay.
is like tap your Magic Band once they take the photo, and it automatically populates a digital copy to your phone. And then
Holy
you can
crap.
do it was like a $60 1-day pass. But the $60 would have essentially been like, okay, well, you get the photos from these two things, because
Oh, wow.
like it was like our Pirates of the Caribbean, our Haunted Mansion, Mine Ride, and so it was like it just wasn't worth enough for me to like
Sure.
get that photo pass, right?
I would love to see what AI would come up with if you just fed all of these photos from like a year's worth of people going down these rides, and then be like, show us the average facial expression of someone
It's a
going down.
good question. It's a
Yeah.
good question. The last thing I did at Disney's Hollywood Studios was Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Well, it's the first thing I went to, but it's the last thing I'm going to talk about. So this is the all Star Wars, land. And so you are in is it
And
called Batu?
this is like the attraction, right? Like this is like why people go to Disney right now for the most part.
It's certainly why 41-year-old men are going to Disney World. I can tell you that.
Okay.
And not that children are having a great time, but like this is a fully immersive experience. So when you walk in, you can't see other parts of the park. You can only see like the structures of this area, and they use forced perspective to make it look like you're in these mountains. I saw a goddamn full-size, full-scale Millennium Falcon, and it was amazing. And then they have things like droids wheeling around. At one point, like there's these stormtroopers, and they were stopping a bunch of park guests, and they're like, "Are you with the Resistance?" And they had funny shtick that they were doing because they're so dumb because they're stormtroopers, but like it sounded just like the stormtrooper like helmet comms that you hear in the movies. Um, Ray walks around and takes pictures with kids, and they have things where you can like test your force abilities, and the shops are themed. Like even I bought a Diet Coke that looks like a thermal detonator. uh and then I brought it home because it was so cool. And they were like, that that'll be like four and a half credits, please. And so they like everything around there, like their area where you buy Coca-Cola looks like, you can tell like it's an old 50s style Coca-Cola like machine, but they've redone it like to have aged lettering from the Star Wars universe, and not that says Coca-Cola, but like in like an alien language. I mean,
No
everything.
Pepsi.
Oh, fuck that, man. You would have hated it. But I loved it. Coke and Disney are hand in hand, and I was a happy camper for that. So these are the three things that I did that were worthwhile in Galaxy's Edge. I started with Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, which is they introduced a brand new character named Honda Katu, and it's voiced by the same guy who voices Goofy. No, not who voices Goofy.
Max.
Nope. Jim Cummings. He voices like Darkwing Duck.
Oh.
Yeah. So the idea here is that you are a smuggler and you need a new job. And so you meet Honda, and Honda says like, okay, listen, what I want you to do is to go and steal these batteries from the Resistance and get them here. Now, here's the downside I found of this ride. So you're piloting the Millennium Falcon. You get into a cockpit and there's 4 of you, and it's one of those motion simulator rides. So like you're moving on a little gimbal,
Okay.
and there is a screen in front of you that is showing you everything that you're doing. And so you have a jump to light speed, but it's a fully interactive ride. So like the person who's piloting on the left makes the Millennium Falcon go left or right, and the person who's on the right is making it go up and down. And then there's 2 gunners in the back, and then there's someone who works the shields if you have a 5th person.
Okay.
So the first time you go through, it's kind of confusing, and like I found the controls not to be super great and like very responsive. And so you're bumping into stuff, and it's like, oh no, you're gonna miss the battery. And so each time you go through it, it's a different experience because of the way you pilot and stuff like that. But in all honesty, I was like, okay, I waited 90 minutes to get on this ride, and it lasts for 2.5 minutes. And half of that was me being like, I don't know how to go left or right. What's going on? So it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. I would have preferred just walking through a Millennium Falcon. Like, give me a walking tour of the Millennium Falcon.
Sure. Maybe play the little chess game or something that they're playing.
Yes, which by the way was everywhere. You
Okay.
could buy that chess set, and people were very excited about it. I went and did Savvy's Workshop, which is hand building a lightsaber.
Oh, okay. This I've seen some video clips of, and this looks freaking awesome.
Yeah. So when you go to Savvy's Workshop, the first thing you do while you're waiting to get in for your appointment is you have to choose who you are, right? Like, do you connect with nature? Do you connect with peace? Are you, into power? And so that helps decide which set of hilts and things like that you're going to work with. So I decided to go for peace and balance, which is a very like Luke Skywalker type of lightsaber. So then they walk you in. I think there's only a dozen of us that go into this little room, and it's not a Jedi who's helping you. It's a guy who's like a scavenger, and he goes, we collect these from down starships and from where we can find them everywhere, these pieces of lightsabers, because you're in the New Republic.
Okay.
And it's after, like Executive Order 88 or whatever, where all the 66 where all these Jedi were killed. And so the first thing that you do, like, it's an experience, like the lights all dim, and he's telling you the story of how, like, what lightsabers are and how a lightsaber is an extension of who you are. And so people who don't attune to their lightsabers are doomed to like have a weapon that rejects them. And it's amazing because Disney did exactly what they did at Universal Studios with Harry Potter in the wand selection ceremony, and it's just genius. And so I chose a blue kyber crystal, and when he's walking around and he goes blue, and then he has like an interesting line. He goes like, I can see inside of you that you have a desire for this, and this. And I'm like, Jesus, this guy's really like, they're actors, right? You are in a fully immersive experience. And so I choose the kyber crystal, and then I start building my lightsaber, and there's like 7 elements that you get to choose as you build the lightsaber up. And when you put the crystal into the hilt of your lightsaber, it starts to glow and to pulse. It is so friggin' cool. Now, here's what I think is interesting. There were a lot of 41-year-old men who were there with their kids, and their kids were the one putting together the lightsaber, but really it was the dad who was putting together the lightsaber.
Why not have
Um,
Dad should just put together his own lightsaber as well.
I'll tell you why. It is $250.
Yeah,
Uh,
but you're already in Disney Town. Like,
r-
you should be
right.
expecting
But here's the thing.
to spend money.
So, but let's say you and your kid do that. That's $500. Like, it's there certainly is a have and a have not that exists in Disney that is blatantly apparent. And also, like, I think like most of the dads I was watching were like, my kid will be fine with the $15 Target lightsaber. He goes, but I mean, we're talking about like real metal parts. Like
Yeah.
it feels good.
Or
And then
like
they,
it's like this is the family lightsaber that will sit
yes,
over the hearth in our home.
bingo. This is the one I want to put on my desk at the law
Yeah.
firm I work at.
Son, when I die, this will be yours. Skybreaker.
It was so cool. That experience was phenomenal. Like, so, and you're allowed to bring one person with you. And so Jill had come in with me and was taking some photos and stuff like that. So
So okay,
maybe-
so you get to pick you get obviously you're building it, so you're picking the color. I don't know why I had it in my head that you were supposed to discover what the color was of your crystal once you ignited it.
so you pick the kyber crystal based off of like, you're supposed to feel the energy of like the crystals that are in front of you, and then you pick that one. Because it's interesting, like because they talk about, you know, famous Jedi who had used the different colors and stuff like that. So, you know, they had talked about like, oh, Master Yoda uses a green because green is in tune with this and this and this. And so it adds to it. And like when you pick the crystal, I swear to God, it vibrates in your hand. Like it just, you get to know it. And the whole experience probably takes 20 minutes start to finish. And then they give you this padded like sleeve that looks like a quiver for arrows, but it's really, really big. And you carry your lightsaber in that. So I had to carry that on the plane with me on the way home. And from anywhere leaving from Orlando, those people absolutely knew what this was. Like the Delta flight was like, oh, you got a lightsaber. Okay, well, we'll put it up front with all the umbrellas. But then when I got on my flight from Minneapolis to Fargo, they're like, what the fuck is this?
You're like,
you know,
I am a Jedi Knight. This is
like,
my lightsaber.
Excuse me, Qui-Gon Jinn wouldn't ask a question like that. And then the best attraction in all of Disney's Hollywood Studios, without a doubt, is Rise of the Resistance. In it, you are a new member of the Resistance, and the whole time you're in this queue, you're walking through a Resistance base. You are seeing pilot uniform. I mean, the pilot uniforms are behind not glass, but like they're in like storage lockers. So like you could stick your finger through and like touch the fabric of it. There are droids everywhere. There's stuff in the wall that looks, you know, that are like a big red and a big blue button and then like some kind of like a comm panel. So everywhere you turn in that ride, you see stuff that is in the Star Wars universe. A couple of the rooms, and like, so, you know, a couple of the rooms have, you know, those grids that are like when they're talking to like Mon Mothma, and they've got the radar grids behind them.
Yeah.
They've got those like everywhere. And so you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I mean, you feel like you are now in the movie.
I love
and
that.
It's so good. And so I know that Disney has done a shit ton of research into how can we make someone who's waiting for 85 minutes not feel like they're waiting for 85 minutes.
Right.
And so one of the thing is like you move from chamber to chamber in this line, so you're constantly getting a new perspective. And like the lines, like you'd be like, why didn't they just build these like big long lines that go like all the way to the end of the room and back and all the way to the end and back and back and back and back, kind of like TSA does, instead of taking these like short jaunts? Well, it's supposed to make you feel like every time you turn a corner, your brain is going, oh, I'm getting so much further in line because I've turned a corner. I mean, it's psychological warfare, more or less, to help you in the situation.
And if anything, TSA should really start taking some hints from Disney. Like, hey, listen, let's, you know, people hate us and they hate that they have to stand in this line. Let's tell them a story, you know,
Amen,
or
brother.
at least something. I remember going once to a diner for breakfast and they had a line going out the door. So we're in the line and the owners of the shop would come out and just give people pieces of like donuts, like donut slices or whatever, like just to kind of keep you slightly fed. Maybe here's a free small coffee, right? Just because you're waiting in line. And so like they weren't even charging you anything, and they made you go, oh, standing in line here is great. I'm not upset at all. And then you're just in a better mood when you get there.
I think that in a modern world we live in, we're in a lot of lines in a lot of different places, and Disney is the king of lines right now. I mean, everything that you go on that's exciting has lines. And when you go into Disney, getting into the park gets you onto every ride, right? Every ride's included, but you can also buy a thing called Lightning Lane, which allows you to pick like a reservation time for up to 3 rides at a time, and you can put your Lightning Lane reservation in like it's something like 14 days in advance. And so if you don't want to wait in the line, if you don't want to wait 70 minutes to get on Rise of the Resistance, you can put a Lightning Lane pass in, but there's only so many of those each day, yada yada yada.
Yep.
And so I did everything without a Lightning Lane. We did not do Lightning Lane, and it's partially because I was so busy getting ready for this conference I didn't even really think about it. Plus I was in Austin right before that. Going back, I definitely would have used the Lightning Lane system, but I went on every ride I intended on going on. And so I just used a little bit of patience. We're living in an era now too where I could read Reddit. I was also entertained. I'm also that person who talks to the other people in line. Like when I was getting ready to go on Tron.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, right? So, like,
Yep,
I'm getting
you
ready to
are.
go on Tron Light Cycle, and there's a kid behind me, and I was like, "Are you excited for this ride?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I'm scared." And he goes, "Don't worry, it's awesome." I'm like, "Okay, well, if I scream, you're not going to tell anyone, right?" And he's like, "I promise, I won't tell anybody." And I heard him talk to his mom. I'm like, "That guy's really really scared." And so I like to do stuff like that. I make funny faces at babies. I do all those
unless
things.
they're coughing.
Oh man, and there's so many coughing babies, so many coughing babies. So Rise of the Resistance, by the time you get to the actual ride, before you get on an actual ride cart, you go through you're captured, like you go into this room and there's like you're essentially like being held in a prison transport, and then they move you from the prison transport into like this thing where there's this giant phalanx, like you're in like one of the launch bays with the TIE fighters above you, and there's like 70 stormtroopers in front of you, and they're all animatronics, so they're kind of slightly moving, but like you look like you're just looking at a giant battalion. And they inform you that you've been captured and they're intending on torturing you for information about the Resistance. And so then when they move you into yeah, exactly. And so then they they hack into this system, and they use one of the mech droids as you're being transferred to like the torture area. And the mech droid is taking you now to where like they're going to like launch a ship that gets you in. And like Admiral Akbar's cousin is the head of your ship, and so you see an animatronic version of that fish head man, and then you see like a video version of it. It's just amazing. And then when you
he's a Mon Calamari, JJ. He's
Mon Calamari, thank you. When they start working you through this area, Tucker, you are inside the movie. Like, honest to God, you are inside the movie. They're working you through areas where you're watching things that are larger than life. Kylo Ren at one point like comes after you, and he's the force to like pull your cart back at you. And it's an animatronic like Kylo Ren, and the movements are so fluid. And so you're in one of these trackless systems, and so you're trying to get away, and you see him, and he's pulling and pulling and pulling, and like your cart is like essentially like moving again. Like it feels like it's trying to like drive away, but it can't, and it's being pulled back.
Are you buckled in too? So like people that aren't going to be like getting out of their cart or whatever?
There's one of those lap bars that goes down like you would on a roller coaster. But again, this is one of those magnetic like trackless systems. This is also the first time I've ever been on a ride where at one point you go into an elevator and it actually takes you up, like because of this track system, and you're not actually having to load and unload, or trackless system, because you're not having to, you literally get into an elevator and it goes up a floor and then lets you, and then you drive out of it again. That is a game changer for ride makers to be able to have multiple levels that you can travel to like that, without having to, have this big winding area that, essentially is taking up all the space so that you're on an incline. It is Rise of the Resistance it blew my mind. I mean, it blew my mind. I started to cry during it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I think that might be the thumbnail.
yeah. It honestly was like so incredibly moving. And for any fan of Star Wars being in it, my co-host on the radio brought her family to Disney World while we were there, and I guess her daughter, like, this is how realistic it is. She was worried that she was actually being taken,
Oh,
like by Kylo Ren, and so she and Amy did not go on Rise of the Resistance, but her son and husband did, and they had rave reviews of
yeah.
what they saw. Right, it was just amazing. So, okay, this is taking way longer, and I only went through one world, so let me just plow through like some other stuff that's great. Magic Kingdom, I love the old school stuff. I mean, the stuff that I feel like is probably soon to be destined to be torn out. Things like the Tiki Room, It's a Small World, stuff like that. The Pirates of the Caribbean ride is great. Jungle Cruise, the Jungle. Are you familiar with how the Jungle Cruise works, Tucker? So you are on a jungle cruise in South America, and the whole point of it is your skipper has all of these like jokes. So they're giving you a tour as you're going through, and each time you go through, each skipper kind of has their own shtick that's different. And so, our guy did this thing where he had all this stuff. He's like, all right, everyone, let's say it together. Like, we all love and like it being inside a boat. And that's not funny, but it was great. It was great. It's incredibly interactive and it's a lot of fun. And so we had a good time there. Also in the Magic Kingdom is the best buffet restaurant in the world. I ate there 15 years ago. I ate there again today or yesterday. It was amazing. It's an expensive buffet, but it is the best buffet. Disney really does it well.
What were like the standout dishes?
It,
or actually, let me rephrase that question because I've eaten at a lot of buffets.
Yep.
What is it about this buffet, specifically the food, I guess, that sets it apart from other buffets?
It is gourmet quality food. So so when you go to like the Pizza Ranch, let's say, right?
Mhm.
And you take a scoop of macaroni and cheese and it's kind of skinned over on the top, from like the coagulated cheese. That doesn't happen at a Disney buffet. When you go and you're picking out your chicken and the chicken's kind of dry because it's been sitting under that heat lamp for a while, that doesn't happen at a Disney buffet.
Okay.
And it's like they had these cheddar grits, and then you could put Creole shrimp on top of it. That, in all honesty, I would have paid $20 for that just as a meal.
Wow.
Like, it was that good. Everything was really good, and it didn't seem like mass produced. It seemed like it was being made just for you.
So they must, I mean, obviously they have a massive staff, but I would think to get that kind of quality, you would have to have a massive staff.
Yeah.
Because you can't just let things sit. And there are more people who's like, yep, this is the noodle guy, right? Or this is the macaroni and cheese guy, right? He is just in charge of making sure the mac and cheese is always fresh. It's always tasting looking good. And if someone has a request about their mac and cheese, this guy's going to take care of it, right?
I have a real feeling that what they do is when they put something there, maybe there's like a button or something that they hit behind the counter. And if it's been there for like 6 minutes, they refresh it.
Oh, wow.
Like, I feel like because they had steamed broccoli as one of the things that you could have. And it was bright green. It didn't look like wet and soggy. It was really, really good. I mean, it's called the Crystal Palace. It's friggin' phenomenal. I went on the remake of Splash Mountain, which is now themed after Tiana's from The Princess and the Frog, and it's fine. These are probably the newest animatronics that I had seen, and they were phenomenal. I mean, like, what they've done with those is really, like, it is almost human-like in their gestures. And then the characters that aren't human, like, Disney should concentrate on not bringing humans to life, but the actual, like, animated character, like, things like, so in The Princess and the Frog, there is a trumpet playing alligator named Lewis. and he's big and larger than life. I kind of feel like if he had been around, John Candy would have voiced this character. And watching Lewis is amazing. Like, it's just, that was out of this world. It was so good. That was my biggest Disney disaster, though. So I had a lunch reservation at 11:35, and the way reservations work at a Disney restaurant is you put your credit card down, and if you miss your reservation, they charge you. So, and then you have like, you can check in up to 20 minutes early, but you can't check in late.
Okay.
So I had an 11:30, and so Jill and I got in line for Tiana's Bayou Adventure at 9:00. No, 9:45. We were in there at 9:45 thinking like, okay, so we'll be done. Like, this ride says that it's a 60-minute wait. So we'll be done by 10:45, plenty of time to get to our our lunch reservation. So we wait in line, and about 45 minutes into our wait, they come over the speaker like, attention, Disney friends, we're having a trouble with the line loading. Please hold until a cast member can help you, blah, 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 blah. Essentially saying something has broken down on the ride, so you just got to wait. And so we wait, and we're like, okay, listen, we built in an extra 40 minutes. We should be fine. And so we wait, and and then they're like, okay, the line's moving again. And so we start moving in the line, and now it's like 20 minutes before our reservation. And I'm starting to get nervous, and I'm like, oh, God, I don't know. And like, then they're like, unfortunately, we have another, just hang tight. It should only be a couple more minutes. So I finally ask someone, I'm like, how much longer from this point? And she's like, probably like 30 minutes. So after we had already given this thing an hour and 15 minutes worth of wait, we had to get out of line completely. And that's a bummer, right? Like, you feel like you really invest all this time and you didn't even go on the ride. So what I did is I waited to go on the ride then until they were doing the big end of the night show. Like, Magic is Alive is at the castle, and it's a projection, and there's fireworks. And so while everyone in the park goes to that, almost all of the rides empty. And so we went, and we only had a 5-minute wait to get on Tiana's Bayou.
I think that's how I would plan all my rides.
So here's the unfortunate thing. You couldn't do them all in that short of a time frame. So like
on one day, right?
Right. No, but yeah, like if you're going to the same park every single day, you could be waiting until the end of the day. And like, that was kind of our plan then going forward. It was like, that's a good idea. We should just wait until like later at the day. And what was great is when we were on Tiana's Bayou Adventure, part of it is outdoors. And so we were still watching the fireworks and hearing the show. So that was great. The best ride in Magic Kingdom was at Tomorrowland, and it's the Tron Light Cycle ride.
Ooh.
It is. So it's a roller coaster, but you're like in almost like a kneeling formation. So your arms are in front of you holding on to, like, it's like you're loading an actual light cycle.
Yeah.
And so there's a train of light cycles, and they explain in the queue that you are part of Team Blue, and you are racing these other teams, and you have to hit these like punch marks. And so like when you go through a lighted loop, it gives you a speed boost. And so it's another one of those that like, is this roller coaster is not driven like old roller coasters where you go click, 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 and then it's all your momentum that's taking you around. This takes you to 60 miles an hour within like 2 seconds, because it's this propulsion system, the same thing that they had used for the Rock and Roller Coaster. And that was out of this world. Now, the queue for Tron is not fun. There's nothing fun about it. In fact, it becomes very repetitive. They used the score that from Tron Legacy. That was, who was it? The guy from Daft Punk who wrote the score for it? Trent Reznor.
Well, no, he's from Nine Inch Nails. Daft Punk did the score for the Tron Legacy, and I believe the new Tron movie coming out has Trent Reznor music in it.
So it's like, and the music's good, but like they use like 2 tracks, so it becomes very repetitive.
Yeah.
I could have watched the entire original Tron, and I shit you not, I looked this up. I could have watched the entire original Tron while waiting in line to go on the light cycle ride, which lasts for 60 seconds. And so, again, if I could go back, I would figure out Lightning Lane and really use it to my advantage. So, but I really did have a blast inside Magic Kingdom. It was so much of the stuff that I loved so desperately. I mean, so good. Um, it just, God, it was so much fun. So much fun. And then I love that old stuff. Jill does not care for the old stuff. So, like Country Bear Jamboree, she is checked out. She's like, nope, this is garbage. I can't. Why do you like this? And here I am being like, they've refreshed, they've done everything new. This is so good. So
Jill, Jamboree is in the title.
yeah. And it's like, it's an old school Country Bear Jamboree. And I'm like, yeah, this is where it's at. So our hotel was within like a 5-minute walk of one of the entrances into Epcot. And so that was the easiest. Like we just walked over to Epcot, and I went on Soarin', and I remember my mom telling me that Soarin' was the greatest ride ever. And it's pretty awesome, where you're like, imagine like you're in a hang glider and you're flying over like the world. And Jerry Goldsmith, who wrote the theme to the Gremlins, does the score for it, and it's really good. But while you're waiting in line for Soarin', which is in Epcot, and so Epcot, is where the sciencey stuff is, and it's supposed to, like the showcase of the world. But one of the things is like they're playing all this music, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the suite from the Kevin Kline movie Dave. Oh my God, this is Bruce Broughton doing Rescuers Down Under. Like I recognized all of this music from everywhere, and that was just fantastic. So Soarin' was a lot of fun, but the best ride, I think, actually. Oh, and I went on Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, which was fine. I'm glad I only had to wait like 30 minutes because like I didn't love it. And
are you just in a hat?
No, you would think. So you're shrunk down to the size of a rat, and you are with Remy, and he's taking you through the kitchen, and so this is before the bad chef leaves, and so the bad chef is chasing you around this kitchen. So you're the size of and so at one point you like go underneath an oven, and the oven starts above you, and so you feel this intense heat coming down, and then someone sweeps you, and so you feel like this brush, like a boost, like as you move to this one spot, you go through the walls, and he smashes his hand through, and then you set off a trap, and so it's fast paced, and you go everywhere, and you're in a little cart that looks like a little rat. And again, it was fine. I think kids would probably like it a little bit more. I think that it moved so fast that it was hard to concentrate on what was really like in front of you and to appreciate like what was taking place. But it's another one of those trackless systems that uses the magnetic thing. And so like you're with all these 10 other cars as you're going through it, and you're skittering past each other, and you're moving in different. So I think like depending on which cart you end up on, you have a different experience each time you go through this ride, which that is truly unique. We walked through all of the World Showcase, and so we saw all the worlds. Interesting fact, in Canada, which is in the World Showcase, I'm pretty sure the only song that they played was an instrumental version of The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Over and over and over again. My favorite ride that I went on the entire time, though, was at Epcot. Do you know rope drop? Do you know that term?
No.
So Disney lets you into the park, but they don't let you into the area where like rides are until what they do. Like sometimes, like it used to be at Disneyland that they literally had a rope that they would put up, and then at exactly 8:30 they drop the rope. The idea is here is like just like at a concert. The concert doesn't start until X time, but they want to get people in the building as much as possible,
right?
So that you can use that. So if you stay at a Disney park, you can get into the park half an hour earlier than other people. And so if there's a ride you really want to go on that usually has a ton of weight, people will rope drop and go to that ride. So essentially they will be there at the moment the park opens, and they'll rush their butts to whatever ride it is, and typically you can get on rather quickly. But you can really only do that with one ride, right? Like you can only go and like commit yourself to one thing for rope drop. Rope drop is massive. It is huge. I bought a shirt that says like rope dropping every day.
That could mean so many other things.
Yeah, could be, could be. Um,
Please tell me you wear it in public.
oh, I will. Well, here's the thing: the term rope drop is widely known. I mean, like Disney made this shirt, right? Like it has become a phrase that is so synonymous with what they do at Disney that I think people just really they get behind it in a big way. So I rope dropped at Epcot Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. And it's a roller coaster inside a building similar to Space Mountain. And what is happening is you and like the queue has got tons of stuff. I mean, Glenn Close is a part of this. Terry Crews is a part of it. All the cast members of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I can tell they didn't get Bradley Cooper for the voice of Rocket, and I'm curious why not. That's the only thing that seems weird is it's someone else doing the voice of Rocket. Um, but the premise here is that you are going to visit Xandar, and you're the first Terrans to be transported to Xandar, and you're going to use the the like space portals that they use to be able to travel there. And as soon as you get off of planet Earth, a celestial, it says essentially like, you know, earthlings are being judged and they no
Mhm.
longer are worthy of being in the galaxy, so he uses this time machine and one of the jump points to go back in time to essentially like stop the big bang from happening, which also threatens Xandar because Xandar was formed in the same big bang that formed us. And so the Guardians are tasked with like going back in time and helping this guy. And so you're with them essentially, like you're in this escape pod that the Guardians pilot. And so this roller coaster takes place completely inside of a room that looks like you're in outer space. You're surrounded by stars. You see the planet Earth like right below you.
That's cool.
And like
I want that.
not only does this roller coaster move around, but the cart you're in actually spins to like point you in different directions. And then inside of you, like everyone's in like their own individual cart, and you've got like there's speakers surrounding you, and so they're pumping in like there's 9 different song tracks, so every time you go in you could be a different song, and so they're like blaring Disco Inferno while you're going through. And it was I honestly, like, this was the most amazing thing I've ever been on, and it uses the IP perfectly. The ride system was unlike anything I had ever seen or experienced before. It was phenomenal. It was so good. So good. And then I ate at a Planet Hollywood where I had the worst service ever, and I only left a $2 tip.
And I'm guessing that Planet Hollywood isn't in Disney Town?
It's in Disney Springs, which is another part of Disney where it's like full of outdoor shops. It's like a Disney like outlet mall space,
Okay.
and you don't have to pay admission to get in. So like if you're going to prom, let's say, you can book one of the like really awesome restaurants at Disney Springs, but it's done with the same intentionality as the parks are.
Okay.
So we did that on our last day just to, you know, because we didn't have to be at the airport until like 6 o'clock. And so it was we had I mean, I had a wonderful experience. I loved it. I don't need to go back to Disney World anytime soon. I definitely would like to go to Disneyland, because there are some big differences in the things that they have at one versus the other. But I had a really good time, and I didn't get frustrated with anybody, and I'm sad that they're closing Muppet Vision 3D, but I'm really glad
Yeah.
I got to go. Oh, going back to your point, so I don't forget,
Yeah, Goofy
I
movie.
made a Goofy movie. Okay, so a Goofy movie is an example of something that I think is just ridiculous with Disney. They have this IP that is almost 100 years old, right? Like Goofy has been around for a
Right.
long time, and Goofy, they gave him a slight update, right? So he's not wearing the same hat that he was before, but they decided, what can we do with this character to create a story that is worthwhile? And so one of the thoughts is like, well, what if he's a dad? What if he's a single dad? And so a Goofy movie is a story about a father and a son, and the son not wanting to be like his dad, and the dad just wanting to desperately to be a part of his son's life in some way. I think a Goofy movie is a perfect story. By the way, it is start to finish. That movie is just phenomenal, and I'm surprised that it exists in the way it does. And there's a documentary that just came out called No Goof, and it is about the making of a Goofy movie. So I wonder if maybe that's where you saw that
That's
clip of
I'm pretty
someone.
I'm pretty sure it's from that. Because is it having an anniversary right now? Or has it?
30th. It's the 30th right now.
Okay. Yep. Yep. That was the movie that made me go, I should give Easy Cheese a shot.
Yeah. Thank you, Pauly Shore. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
So here's my point. I went on one ride that was themed around Mickey and Minnie Mouse. That's it. But
Ooh,
you
yeah.
cannot turn around in that place without seeing merchandise of these characters that have been around for so long, and there is a certain level of nostalgia about them. Like, there were maybe 3 things branded with the Muppets while I was there. There's barely any Tinkerbell merchandise. There's nothing from Robin Hood. I mean, you don't see anything from like those older movies, with the exception of
I would
just kind
assume
of.
I would assume Lion King probably has something
Yeah,
similar.
I mean, you see Lion King. I didn't see like anything with Genie on it. Um, it's just like nothing from Hercules, nothing from Mulan, and
Uh-huh.
so to me, it's just like you've. But even more so, like that Donald Duck, the Daisy Duck, Mickey, Minnie, Goofy. These characters, like when they come out into the park, get swarmed, and there's lines that are like an hour and a half long for people to take a picture with this like suited character. All of their stage shows are about like, let's, like we're getting all of our friends together, and so Mickey sends Donald off, and then Donald brings back the characters from Tangled, and they do a song and dance number. Why is there not a world where Disney has written a movie where a new executive takes over Disney and decides that it's time for these characters to retire,
Mm.
and so it sort of like puts them out to pasture, and so they try and get jobs elsewhere? Maybe. I mean,
We
it's
need
very.
something like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit style
And
movie.
exactly, right? So like Mickey is out in the real world. Like Donald does phone sales or something like that in the real world,
Uh-huh.
and no one can understand. And then there's a reason why they have to go back, right? There's a reason, like, and here's the thing: it's perfect. It involves the parks. It involves characters that you already own and are not doing anything with, like as far as like putting them into major media like this, and it tugs at nostalgia for multiple generations. Name something as iconic as Mickey Mouse that your grandparents, parents, and toddlers all can
Right.
identify.
Remind me, is Jim Henson characters owned by Disney now?
They all the Muppets are, but not the Sesame Street
But
characters.
oh, really? Sesame Street characters owned by someone else. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that would be a pretty sweet movie. Would be like a Mickey Mouse Kermit team up movie where Mickey is animated, Kermit's a puppet, and it's in the the our world, right? And so it's like doing a new spin on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it's not just a world of cartoons, it's a world of cartoons and puppets.
I would watch that in a heartbeat. I
Yeah,
would
I would
I
too.
I would think that that's the most amazing thing ever.
And my guess is they'd be able to strike some kind of a deal with the owners of Sesame Street where Big Bird makes an appearance or something like
Yeah,
that.
why not, right? Like it, and like they own so many other iconic characters, and that's the thing. Like this thing would be rife for cameos. The Who Framed Roger, or no, I'm sorry, the Rescue Rangers movie that came out a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
is very similar in this idea where it's these characters and they're like, yeah, we were on this television show, but like they're actors who are on this
Right.
show essentially, right?
Right, right.
And so they're relegated to being in cons now, and so there's this great part where Chip, who I believe was voiced by Andy Samberg, is like doing a signature thing at a con, and he's across from Scary Sonic, and it's the Sonic the Hedgehog from the trailer before they redid it. and and he talks to Scary Sonic, and Scary Sonic's like, man, this is the life, you just gotta put your autograph out and da, 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 da.
Who plays Scary Sonic?
I don't remember. I wish I could. The internet will provide, I'm sure, but like that was such a clever thing, and I'm like, okay, this is what we want, this is what we kind of need.
Yeah.
in this situation.
That's sort
so.
of meta commentary on the actual pop culture world that these things all exist in.
Yeah, right? So I had a great time at Disney World. It was a lot of fun. It was very, 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 very expensive. So now I am going to get a second job. I did fuel me creatively. I filled up like notebook after notebook of ideas, which is great. And I had just a wonderful time. So now I am excited to be home. I got to sleep in my own bed last night, and this is gonna sound weird, but I can't wait to just have a sandwich. I just want a good old ham sandwich, a little cup of soup. I'm gonna be a happy boy. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. What a missed opportunity. I should have called this JJ Meets Disney World. God damn it.